It started that night.
I never paid much attention to the little behaviors of my cat, Milo. He was the kind of quiet, self-contained cat who acted more like a roommate than a but always present, but rarely demanding. I moved into my new rental house in Boise, Idaho, in late 2021 after a bad breakup and a job transfer. The house wasn't old built around 1998, but it had that stale, shouldn't smell of a place that had seen things and never talked about them. It was cheap, close to work, and had hardwood floors Milo loved sliding on. That's all I cared about. The first night, Milo began doing something he had never done in the 4 years I had owned him. While I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through Zillow listings I'd never afford, he sat on the backrest behind me, frozen, completely still. His ears angled forward, his eyes fixed over my shoulder, not at the TV, not at a bug, but at the empty space behind my head. I thought maybe he was reacting to a sound I couldn't hear, so I snapped my fingers near his face. No reaction. I waved my hand. Nothing. His pupils were round and dilated, like he was looking at something alive. It was weird for a minute. Then I brushed it off as cat nonsense. But the next night, he did it again, and the next. Each time, exactly the same posture, sitting rigid on the back couch cushion, staring intently just above my shoulder, as if something stood there, taller than me. By the fifth night, I started to feel stupid, turning my head to look. There was never anything there, but every time I turned, a cold draft brushed the back of my neck. The AC was off. The windows were closed. Yet something moved the air. On the sixth night, Milo hissed. Not like a startled cat. It was a long, slow, primal hiss. The kind that comes from deep inside. The kind that means genuine fear. His eyes followed something. Something moving behind me. I didn't turn around. I don't know why. My body just decided I didn't want to see. From that night forward, Milo refused to sit anywhere except near my bedroom door. He'd crouch there, blocking the entrance, staring down the dark hallway like a guard waiting for something to come back. If I picked him up and carried him into the bedroom, he would claw my shoulder until I put him down. Then he'd bolt back to the hallway around mid-December. I woke up to Milo growling, the first time I'd ever heard that sound from him. My bedroom door was cracked open, just a sliver. I always shut it completely. Always. The hallway beyond the door was pitch black. Huh? But Milo's eyes were fixed on something in that darkness. His back was arched, tail puffed up, every hair on him standing at full alert. "Okay?" whispered his name. He didn't blink. That's when I heard the quiet sound of wood tapping, like fingernails, coming from the hallway. I closed the door fast. The next day, I bought a baby gate, thinking maybe it was something physical, another animal, air pressure, whatever. But that night, I woke to the baby gate on the floor, far from the doorway, like it had been tossed aside. Milo was on my bed. Trembling, I started sleeping with the lights on. By January, the activity had escalated. It wasn't just Milo staring anymore. It was where he stared. Always behind me. Never in front. Never around me. Always behind my back, like whatever he saw wouldn't let me see it. Once, while brushing my teeth, I felt a breath, not warm, not cold, just presence fill the space right behind me, like someone was inches from my neck. Milo, sitting in the doorway, stared so intensely at the mirror that I looked up. Nothing behind me, but for a split second, the reflection looked like my shoulders were hunched forward, like someone was leaning on me. I moved out of the bathroom so fast, I dropped the toothbrush. The final week I lived there was when everything crumbled. I'd come home late after work, dreading the silence. Milo always met me at the door, but that night he didn't. I found him under the couch, shaking, pressed hard against the wall, like he was trying to disappear. When I called his name, He bolted past me and ran into the bedroom closet, refusing to come out. I felt watched, hunted. I tried watching TV to distract myself, but Milo eventually crawled out and climbed onto the back of the couch. I froze. He was sitting in that same position, staring behind me. But this time, it was different. He wasn't staring upward. He was staring at the exact height of a human face. Slowly, mechanically, his head tracked to the left, then to the right, following something moving just inches behind me. I couldn't breathe. Tears welled in my eyes because a deeper part of me, some ancient instinct, believed him. Whatever he saw was real. I whispered, "What is it?" Milo looked directly behind my ear. Then he screamed. Not a hiss, not a yellow scream. A horrible, desperate animal sound that ripped out of him like pure terror. At the same time, a sudden pressure pushed against my back solid. Unmistakably, someone placing both hands firmly on me. I shot off the couch so hard I fell onto the floor. Milo scrambled away, claws scraping the wood. The pressure vanished the moment I moved. I grabbed Milo, shoved him into his carrier, and left the house without shoes. I slept in my car that night in a Walmart parking lot, engine off, holding Milo's carrier on my lap while he whimpered. The next morning, I called the landlord to terminate my lease. I didn't go back alone. 2 coworkers came with me. Milo refused to cross the doorway. He braced his paws against the doorframe, nails digging in. Inside, the house felt wrong. Not cold, not hot, just wrong, like the air had weight, like the walls were listening. My coworkers found the living room, couch pushed several feet from where I'd left it. I don't know if they believed me, but one of them muttered, "Let's hurry." We packed everything in 20 minutes. Milo never left my arms. When we were leaving, I looked back one last time. I don't know why I did, but in that moment, Milo twisted violently in my arms, staring over my shoulder toward the hallway. His pupils blew wide, his ears flattened. His mouth pulled into a silent snarl. I didn't turn. I walked out. We moved into my sister's house that same day. Milo slowly went back to normal. No growling, no staring, no trembling. But here's the thing I still can't explain. It's been almost a year. He acts fine, completely normal, except for one new behavior. Whenever I sit on the couch, no matter which couch, no matter which home, Milo always jumps up behind me and he stares over my shoulder. Not terrified, not curious, just watching, like he's waiting for something to come back, or like he's making sure it never left. A month after moving into the small rental house on the outskirts of Fairbanks, Alaska, Claire finally started to feel like life was settling down again. The place wasn't modern, but it was quiet, surrounded by old spruce trees that seemed to swallow sound. She liked that. She needed quiet after the year she'd had. Her dog, Mason, a 7-year-old German Shepherd, loved the wide yard and the endless snow. He was calm, gentle, and rarely barked. That was one of the first things people noticed about him. He didn't bark unless something was truly wrong, which is why, when the first incident happened, Claire dismissed it, only because she didn't want to think about what it meant. It was just after midnight. Claire was unpacking books in the living room when Mason suddenly lifted his head, ears stiff, tail straight. He turned toward the far corner of the room, the one near the old, sealed crawlspace door. Then he barked. Not loudly, not playfully. A deep, guttural warning. Claire jumped, dropping the book in her hands. "Mason, buddy, what is it?" He didn't look at her. He didn't move. He just kept barking at that same empty corner, claws scraping the wood floor as he crouched protectively. There was nothing there. Just shadows. Just a closed crawlspace door that the landlord told her hadn't been opened in decades. But Mason kept barking. Claire walked over and placed a hand on his collar, but he pulled against her grip, determined. Eyes fixed on something she couldn't see. It took almost 5 full minutes for him to stop. That night, Claire slept with the hallway light on. A few days passed before the second incident. This time, Claire wasn't alone. A friend from work, Megan, had come over for dinner. They were talking at the kitchen table when Mason suddenly came stiff again, head snapping toward the living room the same way he had before. He stood slowly, his breath heavy, the fur along his back rising like a ridge. "Oh my God," Megan whispered. "What's he looking at?" Claire swallowed. "He does this sometimes." "I don't know." Megan leaned slightly to the side, trying to see the corner Mason was locked onto. "What's over there?" she asked. "Nothing. Just the crawl space." Megan's face changed. "Crawl space." Her voice dropped to a hush. "You didn't tell me you had one." "I don't use it. It's sealed." Mason growled low, quiet, unlike any sound he had ever made. It vibrated through the floor. Then he barked again. It's the same deep, warning bark, staring at nothing. Megan pushed her chair back. "Claire, I don't like this. I really don't." "I don't either." Mason kept barking, loud this time, over and over, each bark echoing like the room was bigger than it really was. Finally, Megan snapped. "Let's leave. Come on, please." They stepped outside into the freezing air. Mason followed, but the second his paws hit the snow, he stopped barking. He just looked back at the house, panting, tense, as if waiting for something to follow them out. Nothing did. They drove to Megan's apartment and stayed there until morning. When Claire returned home, the house felt colder than usual. She convinced herself it was the thermostat, but she noticed something else. 2. Mason refused to go into the living room at all. By mid-January, things were worse. Mason's behavior changed completely. He stuck close to Claire at all times, following her from room to room. At night, he'd sleep right against her bed, staring toward the hallway like he was guarding an invisible doorway. He barely ate. He barely slept, and he would not go. Near the living room, Claire tried forcing him once, just gently pulling the leash as she stepped inside. Mason planted all 4 paws into the floor and shook so hard his collar rattled. When she tugged again, he let out a terrified whine she had never heard from him before. She backed off immediately. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, okay. We won't go in there." Go. But she still had to pass by the living room to get to the kitchen. And every time she did, she felt the sensation of being watched from that dark corner where Mason barked. She tried ignoring it, tried pretending, but it was getting harder. Because now she was starting to hear things. Soft noises, faint taps or shifting sounds, almost like someone moving inside the walls. The landlord insisted the house didn't have rodents. He practically swore it. Then again, also avoided making eye contact when she brought up the crawl space. The last night began quietly. Snow fell hard outside, wind howling against the windows. Claire made tea, sat on her bed with her laptop, and tried to forget the cold dread that had been sitting in her stomach for weeks. Mason was at the foot of the bed, but he was restless, lifting his head every few minutes, licking his lips anxiously. "Are you okay, buddy?" He didn't answer, just stared toward the hallway again. At 3:12 a.m., Mason stood up and growled. Claire froze. "Mason." He stepped backward toward her, ears flattened, teeth showing not at her, but at something behind her. Claire turned her head slowly down the hall. She could see the edge of the living room, and in that moment, she realized the room looked darker than it should. Not just unlit darker, like something was absorbing the glow from the hallway light. Mason barked once, sharply, like a command. Claire grabbed the flashlight from her nightstand. "Stay with me," she whispered. Stepping into the hall, Mason refused to move. He stood, rigid, staring, trembling. "Come on," Claire hissed. He let out a soft cry. She stepped forward anyway. Her voice cracked. "Hello." Is someone there? The house didn't answer. Claire aimed the flashlight into the living room. The beam hit the opposite wall, then the couch, then the sealed crawlspace door. The door was open, just a crack, enough. Claire's throat closed. No, she whispered. No, no, no. The flashlight flickered behind her. Mason barked again, a frantic, panicked bark she had never heard in her life. Then Claire heard something. Not loud, not dramatic, just movement inside the crawlspace. Slow, deliberate, like something was crawling forward, dragging weight across wood. The flashlight died. Everything went black. Claire stumbled backward, nearly tripping as she ran toward the bedroom. Mason, come on. But Mason wasn't running toward her. He was backing away from the hall, his eyes wide, ears pinned, refusing to come any closer. Please, please, come here. He didn't. Claire slammed the bedroom door shut and locked it. The house was silent, now so silent she could hear her own pulse thudding in her ears. She held Mason, shaking, waiting for morning. But sometime around dawn, she realized Mason had stopped shaking. She looked down. He wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at the bedroom corner, the one right behind her, and he was growling, very slowly. Claire turned her head. What she saw, what she thinks she saw, she refuses to describe to anyone. Not the police, not her friends, not her therapist. She left the house within the hour. She left everything behind. She took Mason, drove until the fuel light blinked, and never went back. The landlord sent her a message 2 days later. Did you open the crawl space? She blocked the number because the door was sealed. She moved in, and she swears she never touched it, but something opened it. The first time Hannah noticed something was wrong with the guest room, she thought her cat Lumen was just being dramatic. Lumen was skittish with strangers, sensitive to noise, and hated suitcases, anything that meant change. But this felt different. It began 2 weeks after. Hannah inherited her aunt's house in a quiet, fog-covered stretch of Humboldt County, California. She'd been cleaning the rooms slowly, one a day, sorting through her aunt's things. Lumen followed her everywhere, weaving between her legs, hopping onto boxes, chirping for attention, everywhere except the guest room. The moment Hannah stepped near that door, Lumen froze, her pupils blue wide, fur bristling. Then she would bolt tears flat, claws scraping the floor as she fled to the opposite end of the hallway. Seriously? Hannah muttered. It's just a room. But Lumen refused to cross the threshold. Not even for treats. Not even when Hannah tried carrying her. Lumen wriggled violently, panicking in a way she never had in her entire 10 years of life, forcing Hannah to put her down before she scratched her. Hannah told herself it had to be a smell, maybe mold, maybe mice. But when she opened the room the first time, the air didn't smell like mold. It smelled still, old in a way that didn't match the rest of the house, like air that hadn't been stirred in decades. The room was ordinary enough, just a bed, dresser, and a tall window nearly blocked by overgrown redwood branches. The light that seeped in came in pale and filtered, giving the room a muted, underwater feel. Dust hung in the air like faint glitter, but nothing about it explained why Lumen wouldn't enter. When Hannah stepped inside, she felt nothing wrong, at least not at first, but she couldn't deny that the room felt heavy. Not cold, not hot, just weighed down, like the air was thicker here. Still, she needed to clean it. She grabbed a trash bag and began clearing old clothing from the dresser. Lumen sat in the hallway, staring in with unblinking eyes, tail curled tight around her body. You're acting weird, Hannah said. Lumen didn't move. That night, Lumen wouldn't sleep on the bed like usual. She paced. Wind kept jolting awake, staring at the bedroom doorway as if expecting someone to walk through it. Hannah turned on the lamp. Lumen, what's gotten into you? Lumen's tail puffed again. Something about the look in her cat's eyes, pure warning sent a ripple of cold down Hannah's spine. A few days later, things escalated. Hannah was scrubbing the shower when she heard it. A sound from down the hall. A soft creak, slow and deliberate. The kind no house makes by accident. It was the sound of weight shifting on old wood. The sound came from the guest room. Hannah froze mid-scrub. The house had been silent all morning. No wind, no footsteps overhead. No neighbors close enough to cause vibrations. She waited. Another creak. Then stillness. She slowly stepped out of the bathroom. Lumen sat in the hallway with her back arched, staring toward the guest room door. A low, steady rumble came from deep in her chest, a sound Hannah had never heard from her before. "Hey, it's okay," Hannah whispered. Lumen hissed. Hannah's stomach tightened. She walked to the guest room, heart thudding, placed her hand on the doorknob. It was cold, too cold for a house with the heater running. She opened the door an inch. The stale air hit her immediately, heavier than before, thicker, almost damp. The curtains moved slightly, even though the window was shut. "Hello?" she whispered. No answer, but the air shifted again. A faint movement, as if someone had stepped aside in the dark. She shut the door quickly and backed away. Lumen ran into the bedroom and hid under the bed for the rest of the day. That night, Hannah dreamed of her aunt. She stood in the guest room, facing the window. There was something strange about her posture, too still, too straight. When she turned to look at Hannah, her eyes were round, empty in a way that made Hannah's chest tighten in her sleep. Her aunt lifted a hand toward the bed, toward the shadow under it. "You shouldn't have let it wake up," she whispered. Then the dream snapped like a stretched wire. Hannah woke, gasping. Lumen was crouched on her chest, trembling violently, staring at the bedroom doorway. The guest room door was open. Hannah was sure she had closed it. The next evening, Hannah tried something she hadn't before. She set her phone on record, placed it inside the guest room, and closed the door. Lumen paced anxiously behind her, meowing in panic. "It's okay," Hannah whispered, though she didn't believe it. After 30 minutes, she retrieved the phone. The audio made her hands go cold. There were sounds, not loud ones, not cinematic, dramatic ones, just quiet, shifting, slow dragging, like something brushing the floorboards. At one point, the microphone picked up a long exhale, close enough that the sound fuzzed at the edges, breath. But it wasn't hers, and it certainly wasn't Lumen's. Hannah listened twice, 3 times, each one worse than the last. Her brain kept trying to convince her it was the house. Pipes, air pressure, anything logical, but houses didn't breathe like that. 2 nights later, Lumen woke her with a scream. Not a meow, not a hiss, a scream raw, terrified. Hannah bolted upright, flipping on the lamp. Lumen was at the end of the bed, fur spiked, staring at the hallway like she was watching someone walk toward them. Hannah grabbed the flashlight. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no, please." She stepped into the hall. The guest room door was wide open. The stale smelled thick. Suffocating poured out like the room was exhaling after being closed too long. Something moved inside. Hannah didn't see it clearly, only a shift in the dark. A ripple of shadow, like someone stepping back, just out of the light. She stumbled backward, slamming the bedroom door behind her and locking it. Lumen ran into the closet, shaking uncontrollably. Hannah pressed her ear to the door at first. Silence, then a faint footstep, slow, careful, right outside the bedroom. Another, then breathing, shallow, close, and then nothing, just suffocating quiet. Hannah stayed awake until sunrise. Flashlight in hand, Lumen curled under her arm like a trembling heartbeat. When morning came, she finally opened the bedroom door. The hallway was empty. But the guest room door was shut tightly again. She didn't shut it. She knows she didn't. She left the house that afternoon, packed a single suitcase, shoved Lumen into her carrier, and drove south until her eyes burned from exhaustion. She rented a motel room 2 towns away and tried to calm down, tried to convince herself it was stress, grief, imagination. Then, at 3:17 a.m., Lumen lifted her head in the motel room. Her pupils widened. Her body stiffened. She stared at the bathroom door, the one Hannah had closed before. Bed. And refused to go near it. Hannah felt her chest go hollow. She whispered, "Please, don't do this." The bathroom door creaked, slowly, then stopped. Lumen bolted under the bed. Hannah hasn't gone home since. She tells herself she never will. But no matter where they go, different city, different rental, different building, Lumen still reacts the same way. There is always one room, one door, one threshold she will not cross. And every time, Hannah hears it again. That slow breath just behind the wall, that shifting weight in the dark. Whatever followed her from that house, it hasn't stopped looking for a place to stay.